And now, another Hotch feature film from Hotch, Volume 1, Issue 1.
Hi, Marco Etheridge here, and I would like to read from my story Spiccato, which appears in Hotch, Volume 1, Issue 1. Lena was raised on violin lessons and minimal parental supervision. She was a thin young woman, dark of hair, pale of skin, and ruthless. Growing up in an institution of one had made her so. The asylum was composed of herself as the single occupant and administered by a series of nannies, au pairs, and musical tutors. She was an exceptional child in a singular way. From the first time her small fingers took up an eighth-size violin bow, her grip on the frog was perfect and remained so ever after. Her parents, Grace and Henry, pursued their own lives with little regard for or contact with each other or their only child. If depicted as a Venn diagram, the union of their overlapping family relationship would be very small indeed. The Chathams did not feel the need to be seen with Lena, or each other, unless it was for an obligatory public viewing. They paid experts to raise Lena, and they expected the hired help to do their job. Their philosophy on child rearing, such as it was, consisted of one simple phrase: limits are set and goals are met. Lena's mother and father made only the slightest contribution to the music of her life, and then only en solo. Her mother and father never played duets. When one of them did interrupt the flow of the composition, their parts were always played spiccato, detached notes, a bouncing bow, up, down, up, predictable and boring. Their perceived duty done, her parents retreated to their own worlds, he to pluck money from the ethereal clouds, she to see that the money was consumed. The solar system Lena inhabited consisted of a single star and a single planet. Music was the gravitational center, and she was the sphere that swung around it. There were small moons as well, the music teachers that spun about until she had gleaned what they had to offer and cast them adrift. Lena was not completely insulated from the outside world. By the age of 14, she knew of the existence of sex, for example, in the same way she knew that there was an animal called a platypus. Both were very odd, existed at a great distance, and were not likely to soon be encountered. Grace Chatham favored au pairs to replace maternal contact, preferably from the former Eastern Bloc countries. There was a progression of young women with names like Anna, Petra, and Adina. One of these offered to enlighten Lena regarding the possibilities of sex without resorting to boys. This offer of extracurricular instruction quickly reached the ears of Lena's mother. The young au pair was ushered into the void of unemployment with a slammed door, followed by a swift call to the State Department regarding the former au pair's work visa. Female au pairs were not the only ones attracted to Lena's brittle beauty. Lena had just turned 16 when one of her musical tutors, a balding man more than twice her age, suggested Lena consider the sexuality of a rosined violin bow caressing a taut string. Lena, the point of her bow poked into his chest, wondered aloud what the constable would make of the poor man's suggestion. After a hurried termination of the lesson, the erstwhile tutor tendered his resignation without returning to the Chatham residence. Lena's early teaching included her mother's weekly lecture on the many strata of society and how a properly trained young person could ascend through them. Grace Chatham maintained a fervent belief in a strict hierarchy. Those persons who could be hired were tools. When the tools failed to achieve their proper function, they were replaced. Those too poor to be hired were dealt with by organized charities set up for that purpose. Peers, however, were important. Peers were stepping stones over which a clever girl could climb. Remember that, Lena, always remember that, as if she could ever forget her mother's words. Those constant harangues on class and climbing haunted Lena throughout her childhood years. The messages grew more strident when Lena entered the bloody arena of an elite prep school. She spent 4 years sizing up her opponents and knocking them down, while Grace Chatham stalked the sidelines from the comfort of home, fortified with a large Manhattan. 4 years later, Lena was accepted to a prestigious music conservatory, and Grace Chatham prided herself on being the force that had moved Lena forward and upward. Lena played the conservatory in the manner of a violin bowed a la Martelet, each note detached and strongly accented, ending abruptly, the bow never leaving the string. She had a clear and concise strategy for occupying a second chair in the student orchestra. From there, she would identify a weak first chair and take it. Each note clear and distinct, each step carefully planned on her path to becoming a soloist. A day student, Lena retreated each evening from the city to the safe fortress of the Chatham residence. Reluctance gnawed at her from the heights, the Chatham family's suburban perch above the city. She imagined the out-of-town students sharing cramped walk-up apartments, and she envied them their squalor. Lena wanted more and much less at the same time. Her 18th birthday loomed, and she did not want to meet it as a virgin. She began to feel the sexual pull of a bow scraped over a taut string. It was true that she had banished the pederast violin teacher with the tip of her bow, but the germ of his suggestion remained long after he had fled. The idea of finding a handsome young student was simple, but the mechanics of doing so were not. Lena was an exceptional young woman when it came to music, but not exceptional at anything that had to do with the mysteries of other human beings. She chose that particular boy because he was pretty to look at, and also because he played the violin. He was just another boy, but his hands were beautiful, as if carved from soap. He played the violin in an annoying détaché, fussy notes held aloof and to themselves. But that was not important. She was a better player, and his skills with the bow were not what she was after. In the end, it came to something rather less than nothing. 3 weeks of awkward dating and stilted conversations finally led to a cramped apartment bedroom that was worse than she imagined. Still, the boy was pretty to look at, and even more so without his clothes on. But what followed was not pretty. It was clumsy and fumbled and rushed. As soon as she could, she slipped away. Lena retreated into her fierce resolve for music and only music. Her violin did not require human beings, except as automatons, to play the other musical instruments. I hope you liked that excerpt of my story Spiccato. You can find the rest of that story and lots more at Hotch, Volume 1, Issue 1. The link will be down here in the comments below the video. So thanks for listening, and I will see you again later. Bye!